I remember at the end of Whole Cake Island, when Luffy had his new bounty reveal, everybody across the entire fandom was giddy, excited, stoked. Luffy over 1 billion. 3 times, 3x'd his bounty. And Morgan's was deeming him to be the 5th emperor. The Goko were born. And people were so stoked because Luffy had gone through so much, being credited for the raid on Big Mom's castle, the chateau, being credited for defeating Cracker and Katakuri. And here we stood, literally, at Luffy really coming into this super high echelon with so much evidence to prove that he had come so far. Not only in terms of his combat ability, but also in terms of his global influence, because now the world's starting to find out that he had this grand fleet, stuff like that. However, this excitement, this enthusiasm for Luffy's bounty now, as of the latest chapter of One Piece 1053, it's not the same, not even close to being the same. Like, you can see on Twitter and so on, folks are way more hyped for Pluton, way more hyped for Chad Bull, aka Green Bull. And when I say Chad, I mean Chad from Bleach, which is but nonetheless a studly Green Bull. And of course, Yonko Buggy.
You're goddamn right.
People, I think, are way more hyped and way more intrigued about these things rather than Luffy's new bounty. So I did a poll a few years ago asking my fan base, hey, you guys, what do you think about Luffy's current new bounty? And I had 5 options. So you can see right here, great at 24%, good at 43%, indifferent at 22%, bad at 8%, and horrible at 3%. Most folks think that this is a good bounty increase for Luffy, but at the same time, when it comes to the great and the indifferent are actually really close. And over 10% of the 19,000 folks that voted on this poll thought that this was a bad or worse bounty increase for Luffy. So let's go through some comments real quick. Jordan D says this: it's exactly where I thought it would be, which I'm stoked for, but it just feels off because Law and Kid got the same bounty. It almost feels cheap, even though it's a top 7 bounty. 95 Seb 123 says this: the 3 Supernova captains having the same bounty makes sense. It was basically the only damage control the world government could do in regards to Joy Boy. Also, Oda did do this exact same thing in Dressrosa. The Alliance was credited with Doflamingo's defeat, hence why Luffy and Law got the same bounty at the same time, even though Luffy beat Dofi. Skip to Whole Cake Island, Luffy was credited for the overall mastermind of the operation, even though he wasn't, and got a high bounty then. Now to Wano, the Alliance was credited for the defeat of 2 Yonko, so they all got equal bounties. Then going down to the Ute Legacy, I think it's the Ute? Either way, Luffy's bounty definitely needs to be higher than Law and Kid's, but I understand why the government is doing that, because they want to hide how powerful and who Luffy is. But still kind of crap having him have the same bounty as Law and Kid when he took a Yonko by himself for the most part. Then after that, Fernando says this: I like Luffy's bounty, I just don't like how they gave the same bounty to Kid and Law. Luffy has a historically threatening fruit for the world government, Grand Fleet, and just beat the highest bounty target in a 1v1 mostly. Law and Kid have mediocre shipmates, except Killer, and they fought together to beat the second highest bounty, Yonko. I don't know, it just feels off to me. Axel says the weird part is not that it is, quote, just, end quote, 3 billion, but that Law's and Kid's bounties are that high as well. Luffy is clearly singled out, especially with him being officially new Yonko, but his bounty doesn't reflect that. Now I'm interested in Buggy's bounty. Guppy says the story just showed us Luffy is superior to Law and Kid in every way, but Oda gives them all the same bounty. Doesn't feel right and seems forced. Doesn't even make sense the CP0 guy solo be fighting Kaido by himself. But then JC Frosty says only the Gorosei knows that he has the Nika fruit. They know he was the guy who beat Kaido. They know what the D means, and they know he's awakened the fruit. So they spun it to look like Luffy, Law, and Kid work together to take down Kaido and Big Mom. If the world knew everything that Luffy is or done, he may be even bigger than Dragon and Roger, so they had to give him that bounty for damage control. Scrolling all the way down to Anarchist, he says, bounty reveals after arcs are usually hype, but this was a letdown for me. I think Luffy's bounty would have been okay if Kid and Law weren't equal to him. Law should have the second highest, and Kid should have the lowest out of the three. Also, some Kid slander real quick. Zoro destroyed Kid 100%, which would be another very intriguing poll at this point in time. And then finally, I'm going to go all the way down to Heroic Spirit over here, who says this: I don't care for the logical reasoning. Luffy split the sky and crushed Kaido to the ground after mastering Advanced Conqueror's Haki and getting a Death Fruit Awakening, and after 400 chapters of build-up, finally became a Yonko. He should not have the same bounty as Kid and Law. If you want to make the they all add up to 9 billion like Kaido and Big Mom argument, then really Luffy should be 5 billion and Kid and Law should have been 2 billion each. Luffy also has a crew which literally destroys Kid and Law's crew combined, and has multiple countries allied with him, and has a fleet. He should not have the same, quote, threat level, end quote, aka bounty as Eustace Kid. Again, I don't care for any logical reasoning you want to give me. This is very underwhelming portrayal by Oda compared to Luffy's previous bounty increases. Luffy getting a 1.5 bill was really more hype in the entire community than Luffy's bounty after taking out Kaido himself, which is true. I second that. I remember that. The 1.5 bill, that was insane. That was a tidal wave. But to wrap it all up, I know the entire community was expecting a much higher bounty until Oda did this, but not everyone is going to switch it up and start saying, why did you expect anything different? This makes sense. So now you get a sense here of what some folks are thinking, at least in my community, when it comes to Luffy's current bounty. Now, I will admit that this was within my expectations, because I did a video a few days ago talking about these Strat new bounties, and for me, I thought it made the most sense that you have a bounty of around 3.2 billion. Because in a general sense, thematically, would it make any sense for Luffy to have a higher bounty than, let's say, Shanks, for example, who, as far as we know, is still in the 4 billions, but Luffy would have a higher bounty than Shanks, let's say 5 point something, before meeting Shanks? Really? That would seem, thematically, very, very strange. And even though we haven't seen this bounty yet, I think that Blackbeard also has a higher bounty as a result of whatever he's doing outside in the world. Some crazy Mad Lad stuff. So I'm willing to bet he's also in the 4.x billion at this point in time, like 4.2 billion. But ultimately speaking, I did see this coming when it came to the actual number. So I was very close to the mark. However, Kid and Law caught me completely off guard. Even though, again, like I said in my video for the Strat bounties, even though I knew that Luffy was going to have his bounty shared, the credits shared with Law and Kid, I did not think that they'd have equal bounties. Because in part, this time seemed very different compared to Dressrosa. In Dressrosa, Law did play a major role in Doflamingo's direct defeat here, with things like the Gamma Knife, and actually assisting Luffy blow for blow against Doflamingo. So I think a lot of folks could appreciate that on Law's part. And Law at the time already had a higher bounty than Luffy. Luffy had a bounty during Dressrosa of 400 million, and Law had a bounty of 440 million. But then Luffy raising higher than Law, but matching the same bounty number made sense because, well, Luffy beat Doflamingo coming in at all. But in this situation, Kid and Law clearly couldn't take down Big Mom in earnest. The bombs maybe, but we'll see in the future how that plays out. I doubt it. I very strongly doubt it. And then Luffy goes through so much to ultimately beat Kaido with that crazy Bajrang done to wrap it all up, but his bounty increase is only double compared to Law, who 6x'd. He's 6 times his bounty, and Kid has the highest bounty increase in the series, when they did, of course, less work than Luffy. So it just feels, I think in that sense, very unsatisfactory, because Law and Kid get better number increases compared to Luffy, even though Luffy did more work. And the idea of the 9 billion does make sense, fair enough, But you could easily have made it, let's say Luffy is 3.5 billion and then make Law and Kid 2.75 billion to equal the 9 billion that is the combined bounties of Big Mom and Kaido. That could have easily have been the case with Luffy. Of course it could have. And it would have been fair too, because we've seen the journey and it feels way more satisfactory for Luffy to have a higher bounty than Kid and Law. And then maybe it would have felt like, okay, well, this supernova rivalry still matters. At least on Kid's side, it kind of still matters, maybe. It's kind of like Kingdom, where in Kingdom, we have Shin, we have Ohon, and we have Moten, where each of these guys tend to be the same rank of commander and ultimately generals around the same time to kind of maintain that sense of rivalry within the story. But
I don't get it.
I'm curious, maybe you think this way. How many people actually believe that Law and Kid are genuine rivals for Monkey D. Luffy? Because I know that some folks had theories way back when that Kid would actually try and attack Luffy and take Robin, or Law would take Robin. Do some folks still believe this? Out of curiosity, if you do, let me know in the comment section, because I'm very curious. But more so than anything else, I understand, and we all understand, how the Gorosei want to kind of snuff out the potential of the Nika and the D clan, that kind of stuff, which is why, even though Luffy's D sus, even though the D initial in his name has been there for all this time, not because he's the Nika, we have to remove the D, have Monkey Luffy, and change the image as well of the one poster. But at the same time, he is differentiated because he's a Yonko. So consider this fact. Law is right next to Kid when they both find out that their bounties are 3 bill a pop. But he doesn't target Law, he targets Luffy because he's 3 bill, true, but he's also an emperor. So it would imply that even though they have the same bounty number, because Luffy's an emperor, his bounty, his head, just by default is more valuable. That is probably the weirdest thing in this whole situation. Luffy is distinguished in terms of his bounty and his portrayal. He's above Kid and Law in the respect of he's a Yonko. That's why Kid attacks Luffy at the end of this chapter, because getting Luffy's head now is more valuable than getting Law's head, despite them having the same bounty. But why would they have the same bounty? If Luffy's head is more valuable, then give him a higher bounty. It seems very contradictory. Like his bounty has an asterisk, or like a star. Spike's family Stella Star, 2 Stella Stars. What? That's weird. It's very, very strange. So without a doubt, isolated by itself, for me personally, I'm cool with Luffy's bounty. I'm actually really, really cool with this bounty. But in the macro of the actual story, it feels really strange and really odd, because even the characters themselves are differentiating the value of Luffy's life versus someone else's life that has the same bounty. That I think is undeniably weird. And I think all in all, people's logic is correct, but also folks' emotions are also correct. It feels unsatisfactory. I would say, if I did this poll at the end of Whole Cake Island, the poll results would easily be 50% great. But for this new bounty increase, the vibes are nowhere close to being the same. And once again, look around social media. If I, you know what, I'll do a poll on my Twitter page. So Jafar, eyes open, heads up, and then folks can vote for themselves what they find more intriguing. Is it Buggy? Is it Green Bull? Is it Pluton? Or is it Luffy's latest bounty raise? And I'm willing to bet a lot of money that it's not Luffy's bounty raise that's most intriguing. And if that's the case, I can understand fully.